So what's going on, Music Coast? My name is Derrick D'Mar Martin. I am a producer, musician, songwriter, educator. My main instrument is drums. I'm here at the Waterfront Blues Festival, backing as a member of Rick Estrand and the Nightcats. Actually, today I'm also playing with the Greaseland All-Stars and the Little Village Foundation, backing Nick Clark and Alabama Mike. So we're here to have some fun.
Right on, man. Can you share with us the story of how you first discovered your passion for music and became an artist?
Man, it's cool. I always say that the music discovered me. At about 5 years old, I just kind of gravitated to rhythms and would pick up pots and pans and beat on things, and I wore a hole in my mom's couch. So after that, she figured she needed to give me some drums or punish me heavily. So
right. Your music seamlessly blends different genres like blues, soul, and rock. How do you approach creating your unique sound?
I've always approached creating music. I look at songwriting kind of as my day job. So I've always, since I was 19, I did my first tour with Dorothy Moore. So I've always played with all these various artists, and I take something from every artist I've played with. And then I produced hip-hop records. First group we did was in 1995 was Wildlife Society and TVT Records in New York. So I've kind of existed across genres all the time. When I create my own music, I'm borrowing a little bit, because to me, everything's got to be on the one. It's got to be funky. It's got to groove, and it's got to say something. But I'll pull elements from hip-hop, from jazz, from blues, and that's kind of became this gumbo.
Okay. Your drumming skills are widely recognized and admired. How did you develop your technique and the style as a drummer?
Well, that kind of came, because I'm secretly still 5 years old. I love to have fun. For me, fun is the entry point. And it just, when I was in college, we had this band, we would play frat parties. And, so I was going to college during the day at Jackson State, so I was a percussion major. And so I was getting all the technical stuff there, and I couldn't do all the fun stuff, like just playing and letting myself go was just my natural personality. But they would tell me in that particular box, well, you can't do that. But then when I would go play the blues clubs or the frat houses, I was a huge fan of Prince and like Parliament Funkadelic. So I kind of would just let these things happen. And it's just, the style just emerged the way it did, just for me being myself and, still exploring that ride.
That's a beautiful answer. Can you tell us about any particular artists or musicians who have been a major influence on your musical journey?
Yeah, I've always been a huge Prince fan, James Brown, Sly Stone, Thelonious Monk. I worked with Little Richard for, better part of 17 years or so. He's like my music industry grandfather. I've learned so much. And there's so many other people that I've worked with and continue to work with. Up to date, Rick Estrand has become another mentor of mine. I'm constantly learning from him. But those are my key influences.
Okay. Your latest album received critical acclaim. What was the inspiration behind the album and the themes explored in its songs?
It's just that, as I say, I'm always writing. So I've literally written thousands of songs. And when I'm preparing a record, I think the last record I probably wrote 150 songs. And then I went through that 150 and narrowed it down to about 50 that I liked. And then out of that 50, I put 4 different records together based on concepts. And I was like, these songs fit this concept, and this is what I want to say. And then as I kind of got the concepts together, so I always have about 4 records finished as I'm still working on new stuff. And then the last record was more, I'm always into human interaction and relationships, and I'm always writing about those things and either my own experiences or my vicarious experience from conversation and experiences with other people.
Okay. As a multi-instrumentalist, how do you balance playing different instruments while still maintaining a cohesive musical vision?
That's not. It's really not that hard to do because like everything. If you've seen the James Brown movie, there's a scene in the James Brown movie when he looks at Maceo and he's like, "What instrument do you play?" And he's like, "Sax." "No, you play drums." "What instrument do you play?" He looks at every guy, and no matter if there's guitar or whatever, he's like, everybody plays drums because the rhythm is, paramount. And as a drummer, as my principal instrument, that's where I focus. And so when I'm playing piano, like I'm not Robert Glasper or anything. I can make my way. I use the keyboard as my primary instrument because I can access samples and different patches, but I approach everything from a rhythmic perspective. So for me, I don't need every note in the chord because I'm seeing the landscape. If it's a ninth chord, the piano's not gonna play all the chords. I'm gonna say, well, I'll do this much on the piano, the horns will cover this part of the range, the synth will cover this part of the range. So when I put all the pieces together, I get that across the landscape. And probably because I'm not, the greatest keyboard player or whatever, I'm not trying to show my talent. I'm just trying to do enough to write a great song and make a great record.
Right. That's a good answer. You have had the opportunity to collaborate with various renowned artists. Can you share any memorable experience or insights gained from those collaborations?
Oh, man. Well, working at Greaseland recording studios, there's tons of stuff. I will say, one of my most memorable experiences, I was in the I was in Anthony Paul Soul Orchestra, and we did the Peretta Soul Festival. I think I played it 4 or 5 years consecutively, and I got to back, like Carla Thomas, Wee Willie Walker, some of the greatest soul artists that are still living today, and that was one of the most, rewarding experiences because I got to play with these people, and every artist taught me something different. And I don't know if you're familiar. If you're not familiar with Wee Willie Walker, look him up. One of the greatest soul singers that ever lived. And every opportunity to take the stage with him, I was just in awe of everything he did. And I just learned so much from that particular experience.
Okay. Your live performances are known for their high energy and infectious rhythms. How do you engage with the audience and create a memorable experience during your shows?
Well, that's easy enough because my goal is to always stay open. We rehearse, we learn, but I'm all about what the universe has to offer in a particular space, in a particular moment, and that's different every night and every festival, every performance. So even though we're playing the same song, whatever, but I'm literally looking for, okay, how is tonight going to connect me with these people? And how am I going to communicate this thing? Or what does the universe have for us to enjoy together? So it keeps it fresh for me every night. So even if we're playing what seems to be the same show, it's never really the same show because it's never really the same audience, the same venue. So I'm always just staying open to what the universe has to offer.
Okay. Can you share any interesting stories or challenges you faced while touring or performing at different venues around the world?
An interesting story. There's so many. I will tell you a story, a Little Richard story. When in terms of like having thick skin, we're playing a festival and the sound people did not have my drums in Richard's monitor as they should. So I'm playing and he can't hear me. It's a big stage, so he's not getting what he needs. So we're playing and count the song off. It's twofold. He can't hear me. Then we're playing old time rock and roll. And if you know, I like that old time, So that's the groove I know. Unbeknownst to me, he doesn't want that groove. He wants another groove. But nobody's communicated to me what that groove is. So there's the part I don't know what he wants me to play. And he can't hear me. Once we start playing, he stops the song. 30,000 people. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, I think the drummer's been drinking. So I think what we're going to have to do, we're going to start again. So we start again. My drums are in his monitor. He can hear me. But I'm playing what he sees is wrong. He stops again. oh man, I think the best thing for you to do is just not play. You just shouldn't play. This is my music. So I'm embarrassed, but the audience doesn't know. They think this is part of the show. So I'm like, what do I do? So he starts again. And I just stand up and start clicking my sticks. And the production manager, Wayne Chaney, walks over. He looks at me. He looks at the kick drum, and he's like, 2 and 4. And I was like, so I start to do this. This is the groove he wanted for this song. So I go through this whole thing, and after we're done, I'm scared to death. I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna fire me. I go, Richard, I'm sorry, man. And he says, oh, man, that's okay. Like, he just yelled at me in front of 30,000 people. But it's those lessons. It's like, you know what? Never panic. Never let them see you sweat. It's like you roll with it, you learn. And that was one of those many lessons. And I think he may have been purposely putting me on the square to see how I would react, to how I would recover. And I mean, those things happen time and time again. But that was one of the most memorable moments because it scared me to death initially.
Yeah, that's a really good story. Thank you for sharing that. In your opinion, how does music serve as a form of self-expression and storytelling? What do you hope to convey of your listeners through your music?
Well, I mean, music is life. Music is just an extension of our life, of our experiences. So, like great songs tell stories that everybody can relate to. And I think it's, as artists, and it's not that every song has to be, magnus opus, this serious thing, because, we like to dance, we like to party, we like to be happy, we're sad. And music has to encompass all these experiences and all these emotions. And I think as artists, all we have to do is be honest and tell our story. And you just hope that you find millions of people that connect with your story.
That's a good answer too. How do you navigate the ever-changing music industry and stay true to your artistic vision while also reaching a wider audience?
Well, the landscape has changed and is ever changing so much that I think you have to kind of split your brain. And as a creative artist, you just create the music that you want to create without thinking of commerce, without thinking of a market. You create the art you want to create first. Now, once you've created that art and you're happy with that art, you switch hats and then you say, okay, who am I going to sell this to? And the industry has changed so much. There's some good and bad. The good for me is that we've gotten to the point that the landscape is basically equal. You can distribute your music anywhere in the world. It takes a lot of study and, know-how to understand the distribution networks and stuff. But basically, you can do what any label can do for yourself. Now, what people get twisted now is that you can't just put your music on digital streaming platforms or what have you and say, it's there, the world's going to find me. You have to do everything the label is going to do. You have to have resources. You have to get promoters and marketers. You have to be willing to pay. But you can do it now in a way that hasn't been possible for us before. So I think it's kind of gauging those two, creating your art in an artistic space free of commerce. Once you've created the art that you're happy with, then you switch over and figure out how you're going to put it into that commercial space.
I agree with that 100%. All right, well, lastly, can you tell us about any upcoming projects or collaborations you're excited about, and what can fans expect from the music in the future?
Well, we're currently touring for the rest of the year with Rick Estrin and the Nightcats, and you can check our schedule at rickestrin.com. And for D'Mar, as recording artist, I've been putting out a single a month since February of this year. July 21st, my full-length album, Me and You, drops, and I'm really excited about that. The singles have been, getting rave reviews. We're streaming, averaging between 80 to 100,000 streams per single so far on this new record, and they're still going up. The new single that dropped, My Everything, it's been out a week. We just hit about 10,000 streams. The video is at like 90,000 views. Modest numbers, but for an independent, just kind of doing it, I'm looking at building. A new record drops on the 21st of July this year, and we're just looking to keep moving and building on those strides.
Right on, man. Thank you so much for giving us your time and doing this interview and sharing your stories, man.
No,
Thank
man,
you so
thank you.
much. Woo.